I was down there all week last week, and my law firm has 12 lawyers down there now counting those ballots.
The best way to count votes is by a manual count. Everybody knows that except the Republicans. These chits and all this kind of junk, that's a bunch of garbage. Secondly, if they really wanted to do it right, they would do a statistical analysis. It's been done by the top people in the United States. Stick to that. Then you have an honest vote. I tell you with absolute certainty, Vice President Gore won the election in Florida by several thousand votes if they allowed the statistical analysis or a revote. And if they don't want to do that, then Governor Bush is going to be sanctified as the President of the United States, having lost Florida if the votes were truly counted, and having lost the popular vote in the United States, and that is wrong.
The sample ballot that we saw that is out there had the names all in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not on two sides. There was no butterfly ballot posted, and there were no punch holes posted in the sample ballot that was posted to notify the public of the ballot.
What about that, Congressman? It doesn't sound like from what he says that there really was notice.
Ahead of time.
Right.
People went in and walked in and punched it in various election offices ahead of the election in absentee balloting. Of course they saw it ahead of time. It was also published in the paper.
But wait a second, Congressman.
Well, but who saw it
apparently
ahead of
it
time?
wasn't, Congressman. Congressman, there are two issues. I think what Steve, and let's get this corrected, Steve says is that the ballot that was published in the newspaper was different from what was shown at the polling booth.
Absolutely.
But what I want to make the point is,
another big drug company, another historic settlement.
By pushing Seroquel for unapproved purposes, AstraZeneca made patients into guinea pigs in an unsupervised drug test.
And for the third time in little over a year, the national Scheller law firm, headquartered in Philadelphia, has represented a leading whistleblower in a massive pharmaceutical fraud settlement.
So how did a boy end up taking a drug that made him grow breasts?
The New York Times has written up the whole story about millions. We're talking about large sums of money, and it's the psychiatry drugs that actually are turning out to be the #1 problem, causing diabetes, pancreatitis, boys to grow breasts. Did you know that?
When John was just 7, he began taking Risperdal for ADD. Even though the FDA approved the drug only for adult patients who are psychotic, John's doctor and others widely prescribed it to kids for less severe behavior problems. John and most of the other children weren't psychotic at all, but were given Risperdal for behavior disorders, including autism and ADD.
It's about as bad a thing as a boy can get that I can imagine.
Attorney Stephen Scheller is suing Janssen, which makes Risperdal. He claims Janssen marketed Risperdal for unapproved uses in children, downplayed serious risks like diabetes and seizures, and breast growth wasn't even mentioned under warnings, but was buried under precautions in obscure terms. Scheller represents John and 9 other boys, including this one who was only 4 when he developed a breast on one side and began producing milk.
This child has had mastectomies.
The treatment for the unbridled breast growth is as unthinkable as the disorder.
From our firm's standpoint, this is the kind of work that lawyers should be doing. Now what I want to do, if it continues, I want to see to it that the CEO of these major companies, if they do it again, this time, they will be behind bars. Your clients deceive them. And what has happened here is you've created a cigarette which no one can measure in human smokers except your companies with human mimic smoking machines. They actually have them. They know the true tar nicotine levels.
Steve, let's go to what this is really about.
The difference is
what
significant.
This really is about.
You're really getting
is the
double and triple the amount
what this is about is the plaintiffs' bar want class actions.
This is one of
they
the
want
largest
class
forms
actions. Let's
of
talk
misrepresentation
Let's talk
in the
about
history
what
of
this is.
country.
It's not a misrepresentation at all.
One of the things that we do know is that without these kinds of strong debates and conflict, if you call it, between attorneys, and I do get along very well with Hope Frywell. I think she's a good attorney, although I'm discouraged by the fact that too many of us on the defense side defend conduct that I consider to be unconscionable, such as the tobacco industry with their addictive cigarettes. But there's nothing I can do about that personally to change it. But I can comment about it. I can criticize people about it. I can take on my other counsel, such as Hope, and debate these issues and get the point across.
You were co-counsel in the Bush-Gore mess in Florida in 2000. I think, was it Mark Aronchick? I think who was a defense counsel. You guys teamed up and actually helped Al Gore in his legal matter there in Florida.
Absolutely.
And you've also debated Bob Heim from Deckert, and you guys in some ways are best buddies until
we get along
you're here
really
on
well.
this show or in a courtroom.
That's right. And although overall, I consider Bush versus Gore perhaps my worst loss in history. Mm-hmm. And the reason I consider that is it was the result of Bush versus Gore that allowed Bush to be elected president, which resulted in our war in Iraq now, and I feel thousands of people dead and injured. Mm-hmm. And that never would have happened, in my opinion, had Gore been elected. And that's why I say I consider that loss to be devastating to me personally.
Right, although you probably were then pleased to see Obama elected in 2008. You see, Steve still got his political comment in. Here we're talking about the law here tonight. And Steve, good on you. You got that in there.